Welcome. And as my guest today, we have Michael Sartain, retired United States Air Force captain, creator of Men of Action, and mentor of thousands of men on high status, networking, social dynamics, and masculinity, former stock options trader, host of the Michael Sartain podcast in Access Vegas, host of several types of events, including bikini competitions, physics, evolutionary psychology, and AI enthusiast, Texas Longhorns fan, future mayor of Las Vegas, maybe, who knows? Let me know if I missed something. Welcome, Michael. Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
By the way, I'm not a Longhorn fan. I'm a Longhorn.
You are long. Oh, that's.
I'm actually. I graduated from UT Austin.
Ah, right. Lost in translation, man. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay, you're a Longhorn.
Yeah.
So you have a huge background of experiences and things that you're interested in. But of course, I think the biggest one is helping people transform themselves in better versions of themselves, right? But I wanted to start talking a little about your own story, your own changes. And you're such an expressive guy, extroverted guy, social guy. Were you always like this when you were growing up?
Kind of, but like a little bit too giddy, maybe. I think I was something when it was really early on when I kind of realized that I could, talk my way in or out of any situation. I was never really afraid of talking in public. There was definitely a time period where I was way more comfortable on the debate stage or comfortable giving a public speech than I was talking to people one-on-one. There was definitely, it's kind of a weird, kind of opposite of what most people deal with, whereas one-on-one communication I wasn't that good at, but when it came to like being on stage, I just, for whatever reason, I just never, it never was a problem for me. So, but no, it wasn't always like that. My dad was super extroverted, and my grandfather was a professor at my grandfather was a professor at Southern Methodist University. And so I just used to imagine living in a family where you can say whatever you want, but you have to be able to back it up with some level of back it up with some kind of facts. And so that was what I was used to. And that's kind of the way I communicate now is like, I just don't take people's word for granted. You have to be able to back it up a little bit.
You're saying that makes a lot of sense of how you like science and how you pay attention to the actions, not the words, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This is something
definitely.
that you always had growing up.
The actions, not word things. The actions, not word things actually came from me working in nightlife. I just kept watching people say stuff. Like when you work in nightlife, it's just full of these dudes who think they're going to be crypto millionaires or they want to start an OnlyFans management agency, or they're just these guys who just have no substance behind them whatsoever. They keep talking about a Netflix documentary people are going to make about them that never comes out. And you just see like so much just this bluster, and they don't do anything to back it up, and they don't recognize how, especially people, really wealthy men and their wives and girlfriends, they take their boyfriend's money and then they start some kind of like, they try to start a podcast or they try to start some kind of fucking channel or a makeup company or something like that, and they don't put the work behind it, and then it doesn't succeed. And so we only pay attention to people's actions is something that I came up with just watching the difference between, when I was in the military, if you said you were going to be there on time, you're on time, like hell or high water. And if there was a guy who was late for something when we were in the military, there was always a damn good reason, like a broken bone or a dead family member. It was always a damn good reason. And then when I got into nightlife and I was just like, yo, this person just told me that they were going to have flyers ready for the party next week, and like the party's in 24 hours and they don't have shit. And then there's no consequences for it. And so seeing a massive level of accountability and a complete lack of accountability, that delta between those two places is kind of where I built my course from.
Right. Makes sense. And would you say that your time in the U.S. Air Force shaped you like a lot? Like how much did it shape you?
It helped me become organized. It helped me understand the difference between good leadership and bad leadership. It helped me to understand concepts of like accountability. It helped me to come to the concept of like me being not an automaton, me having agency in my own decisions, but while at the same time working within a structure. It came, for instance, with my company now, I try to serve my team. I don't even call them employees, my team members. I try to serve my team members, meaning like, so right after we're done with this, GD, I'm going to make videos for some of my sales guys for their leads. I'm going to talk to them, and just whatever they tell me, I'm going to be like, hey man, this is how we can solve your problem, because I need to be of service. I learned that from the military. It's like a good commander is working harder than everyone else, first there, last to leave, and is willing to be of service for other people in their unit. That's how you become a great commander. You also learn everybody else's job, which is really helpful because it's easier for you to make decisions. And then the other thing I learned was, and we talk about this in the program, is subject matter expertise, being really sharp on a subject. And you can only do that if you actually get your hands dirty. You know, what we call in the military, it's called managing while walking around. So you need to go and actually see what other people in your unit are doing, so that later on, when that person gets promoted and you have to replace them, you understand the requirements for that job. And then also when your commander comes and asks you questions, you have enough information to where you know what the answer is and you don't have a problem. And so one of the most important things about leadership is subject matter expertise along with accountability. And those are the things, I mainly learned in the military. Plus, how to navigate an airplane. Got pretty good at that too.
Doesn't transfer really well to nightlife, I guess.
Sometimes it does. There's a few things in there. Like you can take some critiques, like, right. So if you forget to put the gear down when you're landing the airplane, you can mess that up, but you can only do it once because you're going to die. Right. Same kind of thing. There's a self-critiquing thing when it comes to dealing with women, right? If you keep making the same mistake over and over again, there goes half, right? So there is that part of it.
And how the change, how do you conciliate those two things? You were in the U.S. Air Force and then you worked in the nightlife with pickup. How did that happen?
I was in. I worked at a bar or at a gentleman's club from 2000 to 2004, and I joined the military in 2004. And I was in the military from 2004 to 2011. And then at 2011, then I moved to Vegas, and I've been here for the last 14 years. So it's just a contrast of just different jobs that I had. I did actually work at a few nightclubs as an MC while I was in the military also. But it was just like very clear to see, some people had high organizational skills and massive levels of accountability. And because I had that and most people in the space didn't, it really made me a lot more employable. It made me a lot more useful to a lot of people. So one of the reasons why I got invited to so many events was because they knew I would show up on time with my camera ready and my lenses clean, and I knew how to use my microphones, and I dressed better than other people, and you could hear me over the microphone, and I would get my content as soon as it was done back to whoever was throwing the event. And so I guess I didn't explain this. I was a red carpet host for, probably 400 or 500 different events. And so I would get the content back to whoever the organizer was extremely fast. And when they compared me and my operation and the quality of work I did in comparison to everyone else, it just got me more opportunities. And anybody who's worked in any kind of entrepreneurial field, when it comes to hiring people, if you've had to hire more than 20 or 30 people at your company, you can tell the difference between A players and C players. These guys who are just self-motivated, basically get up and just bust their ass out of pride. They're motivated by money, but not really. Like those, you meet those kind of people, and it's very easy to tell the difference between them and other people.
Yeah, it makes total sense, man, how you can thrive in such a flaky environment, right?
Yeah.
But how did you start on pickup? How did that happen?
Let's see. This would have been when I was in the military. In 2005, I was at Altus Air Force Base, and there used to be this thing that was along MySpace. So MySpace was run by Tom Anderson. He was owned by Tom Anderson until he sold it in 06, 07, 08, somewhere around there. And ironically, Tom Anderson's a friend of mine now. But he sells MySpace. There's a competitor to MySpace called Friendster. And there may be some Friendster left. I don't know. But I'm on a MySpace and Friendster because this is before they're like dating apps that we're using on a regular basis, right? Because we don't have cell phones that have apps on them. So we're using MySpace. And this is the first time in history, probably 05, 06, 07, where club promoters are now using social media to get girls to come to clubs in LA and Atlanta and Dallas and different stuff like that. So you have your group of people on MySpace, you'd message them, you'd show pictures from the party, people would want to come the next week. You couldn't upload video back then. It was a very, very different place. And then what happened was while I was doing that, what was the original question? Hold on, I lost train of thought.
How did you get in contact with pickup stuff?
Yeah, the pickup stuff. So 2007, I am at this place called the Pink Pony in Atlanta, Georgia, and I see Cosmo and Matador. Oh, so the show, The Pickup Artist on VH1 had come out. I had already on Friendster. I had watched. I bought David D'Angelo's Double Your Dating course, and then later on his Attractions Not a Choice course. The course was DVDs that were like mailed to you. And when you got the DVD, you know what? Let me be honest here, just in case I ever meet Evan Pagan, David D'Angelo, I didn't buy the fucking course. I did the same thing everyone else did back in '07. I bootlegged it off Napster, okay? And by the way, I did the same thing with all the RSD courses, and then later apologized to Owen Cook of RSD. I apologized. I was like, yo, man, I need to take you to dinner because I just stole all your courses. So yeah, I bootlegged the course, and then I watched Double Your Dating. I watched the DVDs. I watched them while I was on a deployment in the military. I got through all of them. That was the first time I ever saw Neil Strauss. First time I ever saw Mystery. Mystery's book, or Neil Strauss's book, comes out. The Game. You know, we all read it. And then the VH1's Pickup Artist comes out, and it's in Austin, Texas. Now, here's the ultimate irony. At the end of that, the second to last episode of that first season of the Pickup Artist, they're at a strip club, and this guy, I think his name is Brady, and Cosmo have to pick up a stripper. Do you remember this? Did you ever watch the show, The Pickup Artist?
Yeah, well, I watched it. I don't remember it really well, but I remember some parts of it.
That was the strip club I used to work at. So I'm in the military watching them like pick up girls, and I'm like, yo, that DJ booth looks familiar. Like, what is this? And then I realized it's the strip club I worked at for 2.5 years. And then I went to I hit up John Welsh, who was the GM at the time. I was like, yo, what just happened? You guys filmed a TV show inside of Expose? And he told me the whole story, and it was wild. And then fast forward, I bump into Matador and Cosmo at a boot camp they're doing in Atlanta in '07, and I was pretty excited, and I was blown away. So I took the next boot camp and with the two of them in Atlanta. And then when I took the boot camp, I was kind of in charge of getting everyone in everywhere. So after the first boot camp I took, I think Matador and Love Drop kind of had this understanding. These are two guys from the Venusian Arts, which is Mystery's company. They kind of understood very quickly that what I could provide, like every city, Dallas, Atlanta, Houston, I could just get everyone into nightclubs because I knew promoters at every city at this point. And MySpace also really helped a lot. So I went and I did a boot camp with them subsequently in Dallas, Houston, Scottsdale, and Los Angeles. Because those are cities that I frequented very often, and those were, like, I still think Scottsdale has the second hottest girls in the country next to Vegas. And so I would go with them to these different boot camps, and they would just basically use me as an approach coach. They'd get me a hotel room, and I'd fly out there on my own dime. But I learned so much from just hanging out with those guys for a while. And obviously, I'm still good friends with Mystery. I put a video out with me and him yesterday or 2 days ago on my YouTube channel. But I also felt like pickup was just part of the puzzle and a small part. And I felt like it was going to become smaller and smaller the more prevalent social media became. So ironically, the last time I hung out with Mystery until this year, we're in the same room. I took Mystery to Dan Bilzerian's house for dinner back when he lived in Bel Air. Not the huge Bel Air house. He had another house on Blue Jay. And we went there. That was the first time I met Dan, and Dan and I have been friends since 2014. And I just remember like meeting Dan and being like, yo, this guy had at the time I think 800,000 followers on IG, and I remember thinking this guy's about to hit 1 million followers on a social media platform. Nobody had ever really done that. No man had ever had that many followers before. And then I just saw women just throwing themselves at this guy, and he's getting invited to everything. And I'm like, man, what in the world? Like, this social media thing is like a new form of fame. And I thought, what if it, we get to a point where you have like these micro influencers. So instead of having 1 million followers, you've got 10,000, but you live in Wichita, Kansas, and nobody's even close to you. And now you're just like mopping up in Wichita, Kansas. You're the head of the social circle. Every time you throw a party, everyone shows up to it. What if that was what's start to happen? And then, of course, around 2019, I see things really shift that way. And then the pandemic happens, and then the avalanche, just the entire dam breaks. And what the environment for cold approach pickup, I think, is almost completely gone. Not completely gone, but it's almost completely gone. Really attractive women, because of dating apps and social media, don't go to nightclubs anymore. Or if they go, they're being taken care of. They're on stage, with a bottle of Dom, and there's a security guard between you and them, and you can't go up and talk to them. But like the days of like, I remember 2007 going out in like Los Angeles, or 2010 going out in Los Angeles, and I remember going to a bar, and on the dance floor, there were more women than men. I remember those times. A lot of people can't believe that when I say that, they think I'm making this up. It's like, no, you would go to the dance floor of a regular dive bar, and there were more women than men back then. There were plenty of women around to go up and talk to. If you watch that movie Swingers with John Favreau and Vince Vaughn, there's like, he goes up, he's at a bar, and there's this beautiful woman at the end, and he just go at the end of the movie, and he goes up, he starts talking to her. She's like stunningly gorgeous, and gets her phone number. And it's silly because today that's just not, a girl who's a perfect 10 is not sitting at a bar waiting for you to come talk to her anymore. It just doesn't happen. Well, I mean, it happens, but it's because she's a prostitute. But like, for the most part, that's not happening anymore. And it's really hard because there's a lot of married guys who are probably going to listen to this and they're like, that's not true. Before I got married, I went up and talked to some hot girls. Like, yeah, I understand. Before you got married, that was the case. But social media has completely just kicked the soul out of nightlife in a lot of places. The top tier nightclubs in Vegas, packed, completely packed, like absolutely nowhere to walk, full of girls, especially if you're on stage. All the mid tier and low tier nightclubs, they're not doing as well. Dre's is unfortunately closing down. I love Dre's. I like hip hop music, but I also knew that there weren't a lot of big spenders in there. But it's a super fun place, and so what you're seeing is, and by the way, obviously I know that Vegas nightlife is not the world's nightlife. I'm aware of that. Okay. I understand that if you live in Waco, Texas, you go to a dive bar, it's very different for you. But it is a microcosm. It's an economic indicator, if you will, for overall, disposable consumer spending. If all of a sudden people stop going to Vegas, you're going to see that that's an economic indicator for other things, including nightlife in other cities. And that's essential because here's the reason why. The price of the DJs is set by Vegas. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but the price, because you're going to get more money in Vegas than any other city. Like Calvin Harris gets $1 million a show, 7 figures, one followed by 6 zeros. He gets $1 million a show when he's in Vegas. So he's priced consequentially at a similar price, or he's prorated to a certain price in Waco based on his Vegas price. And so all of nightlife, it's kind of like the pluses, minuses, or the economics of it starts in Vegas. Almost like, the commodities market in the United States is based around Chicago. The nightlife market in the United States is based around Las Vegas, because that's also where the nightlife group. So Groot has hospitality, has Live, Tao Hakkasan is based out of here, and the same thing with Wynn Nightlife. They're all based here in Las Vegas. So, that's essentially what was happening. And things were getting subsequently worse and worse for average men trying to go out and meet women in these social situations. Meanwhile, through my friendship with, several celebrities in LA, but we'll just use Dan as an example. I would go hang out with Dan, and it was like 17 girls there for every guy. And then I would go to a bar, and it was like fewer and fewer women. And then I would go to a bar with like 7 girls, and I would get treated like royalty. I'd get free comp dinner, everything, comp drinks. They'd give me a fucking hotel room. Some guy would have a suite. It was crazy. They'd get a shuttle for us because I had 7 girls with me. And then I'd look around, and there was no other tables with 7 girls there. And I was like, yo, what is going on? So I still had this ability to attract women and bring them out, but I was using social media to do that instead of doing cold approach. I still do both. Like I use cold approach in order to build events now, more so than I don't use it to like hit on girls. And I found that to be just a much more effective strategy. And we can go into the reason why. There's certain psychological reasons why that's a way more effective strategy. But that's essentially what's happened over the last, I would say the decline probably, the best time was past 2004, because what happened was EDM music and bottle service actually made nightlife more fun. In the beginning, I really thought it was because you see the hottest girls. Because what would happen was now these bottle service jobs started making way more money. And so you started seeing hotter girls come do bottle service and other girls trying to get those jobs. So there were stunning women at bars and clubs. And I would say the beginning of the decline was about the time of Meta purchasing Instagram. And then that's when now everything sort of became virtual, and you started seeing, like, you would try to go to a club to meet a girl, but Logan Paul is having a party at the Team 10 house in Calabasas, and he's just he's dunking on you. Like, no, every girl is going to the Team 10 party. No girl is meeting you at the nightclub. And that's what we started to see over time. Things kind of move in that direction. And then the pandemic was just like, it was dynamite blowing the dam up, and it was over after that.
Yeah, we could definitely see that trend, but the pandemic really just was a nail in the coffin, right? But I want to go back to what you said, like why it's psychologically so advantageous to have a lot of female friends and go to places with them. But first, I want to ask you, why do you think people have such a resistance to that idea? Not only people in the red pill community, but a lot of people don't think men and women can be friends.
Yeah. So the friendship thing about men and women can't be friends is generally from two feelings that men in general and women in general have. So women in general, they meet a guy and they're consistently offered sex, or they're consistently sexualized or in their mind objectified by men who don't know them. So from their standpoint, like I could be coming up and I'm just a super cool guy. I'm not even attracted to her. And I have an animal rescue charity I want to invite her to next week. When I walk up to her, she doesn't know any of that. What she's used to is constantly being bombarded by creepy men on social media, dick pics, and being hit on by weirdos. And so because that's her reality, then when I go up and I'm like, hey, let's just be friends, or like, hey, what's up, homie? Do you want to come to this breast cancer awareness charity I got coming on next week? It's very difficult for her to believe that's what the reality is. There's a lot of my female friends. One of the reasons why I'm really good at making female friends is because I have enough abundance in my life sexually, like meaning like I'm dating my person or number of people to where I don't need any more validation from that. And so it's very easy for me to be friends with women. Whereas if a guy, like just imagine, I'm going to use an extreme example. Just imagine a guy is like a nurse. He's a male nurse and there's 50 other girls on his floor and he's the only man on his floor at the hospital that he works at. And like women are just throwing themselves at him constantly. And he's slept with like 7 or 8 of, people that he's worked with before. That guy actually can be friends with women. I know a lot of people are having a hard time grasping what I'm saying. A guy who's, let's say, manages a nightclub, he's like a service manager and he manages all the cocktail servers, or like a manager at a strip club, and it's just like constantly he's in situations where there's 40 girls for every guy, and he's like, he can get all the sex he wants. He's got a super hot girlfriend. Other girls are chasing him. Guys in that level of abundance have no trouble being friends with women. Okay, guys, a guy who just did a 15-month deployment to Iraq and he comes back, he's going to have a hard time being friends with women. So it really, being friends, for men to be friends with women was more of a function of how much abundance is in their life. And from the female standpoint, women, I know a lot of women who would love to have some really cool guy friends, but they've gotten so used to the guy being friends so that later on he could try to smash. And so that's the reason why there's this pushback. Now, from the red pill community specifically, it's guys who have seen men being taken advantage of by women. But the reason why these men are being taken advantage of is because these men would shoot their shot. They would show intent. They would show interest to women who weren't interested in them. And then the woman would friend zone the guy back, meaning like decline, like actually lessen his status. He would get friend zoned. And when he's getting friend zoned, he doesn't realize he's being friend zoned because he's not calibrated enough. And then he starts doing things for the girl who's put him in the friend zone, and then at some point finds out that while he's doing all this work to be friends with her, she met a guy named Brock at a bar and fucked him the first night she met him. And now he's angry. So it's a resentment that he has from being put in the friend zone. And so that resentment spreads on the internet. And then, because other guys have had that experience. I've had that experience before when I was like 13, 14 years old. A girl put me in the friend zone. I didn't realize I was in the friend zone. We used to go to the skating rink back when I was 14 years old. And then this girl, then she starts dating some other guy. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. Like, I brought all these quarters so we could play video games and eat corn dogs. That's where I was mentally. So as men, we've gone through this. And the reason why we've gone through it isn't because women are evil. It's because we as men don't have boundaries. We just don't have boundaries. We just see a fat ass and a smile. We see big boobs, green eyes, a pretty face, hip to waist ratio, and we just become idiots. So we don't have any boundaries, and so we let women friend zone us, and then the women then hurt us later on. We actually hurt ourselves. It's our fault for putting ourselves in that situation, and then that's why there's this belief, this overall incorrect belief that men and women can't be friends. Some of the guys that I know that are the most staunch men and women can't be friends people, and I'll just bring up 2 that I've been friends with for like the last 5 years, Myron and Rollo. Myron and Rollo were very staunch men and women can't be friends people. If you go on Fresh and Fit, there's a girl there named Icy who she does some of the she does the recruiting, and we love Icy. Like if you were to ask Rollo Tomasi, if somebody put their hands on Icy, would you beat the shit out of him? Rollo would say yes. If you ask Myron, somebody put their hands on Icy, would you be? Yes. That is a friend. Nobody's sleeping with Icy. She's our friend. And so it's funny because some of the guys who were saying the same thing with Rollo. Rollo has a shit ton of female friends, like a ton. The thing is, in his mind, he didn't see it that way because I pointed it out to him. I was like, Rollo, that girl right there, you hang out with her. Do you want to sleep with her? He goes like, no, I would never sleep with her. I was like, that's your friend. That girl's not trying to, you know what I'm saying? And so girls would come on the show. Rollo wasn't attracted to him, but he'd have like these super interesting conversations with them. Different content creators. And then I would be like, Rollo, do you want to sleep with that girl? He's like, well, I'm married. And it's like, no, I'm not interested in sleeping with her. I was like, then that's your friend, bro. And so a lot of times these guys don't recognize, because they're not actively pursuing female friends, that they have female friends. And so the thing is, that's the reason why people have a hard time with it. Here's why it's so incredibly effective. Man, there's so much data on this. If there's anything in the world, if anybody's watching this, if there's anything in the world I want to debate more than anything, it's the guys who don't think, number one, men and women should be friends, or don't think that men should be taking pictures with attractive women to attract more women. Anyone who doesn't agree with those two statements, please message me. I want to debate you. Make sure you do a lot of work, a lot of research, because you're going to get embarrassed, okay? These are just undeniable facts at this point. Texas Tech University, Oklahoma State, the Royal Society, Southwest University, there's several studies that show that women find men more attractive when other women choose them. And this is the kicker. Ready? Here's the hard one. A lot of people can't deal with this one. When women know that you're not sleeping with those women, like, so there's a experiment they do where a man, he shows that he's married. So married versus unmarried, do women find that man more attractive? And women do find him more attractive when they find out he's married. But then they compare that to the guy who takes pictures with 4 girls, but you know he's not sleeping with those 4 girls. The guy who's in the picture with 4 girls is actually more attractive than the married guy. So when women see you with other women and they don't know whether or not you're sleeping with them, you still get that attraction bonus. This is real hard for a lot of dating coaches and pickup guys to grasp, this concept of mate choice copying in humans. And so the data shows that. Here's the other one. That really blows people's mind, and I'm going to get, eventually someone's going to hear me say this, and I'm going to get in deep shit for this. Because at first it's like, it sounds innocuous, but when you really think about it, how dangerous this could be, it's going to get me in trouble. There's data that shows that men who show that other women are attracted to them attract younger women and women with lower body counts, meaning there's specifically studies that go over sociosexuality. Look these words up. Don't take my word on any of this. Sociosexual women versus restrictive women. Sociosexual are women who are promiscuous. Restrictive women, women who are less promiscuous, are actually more likely to be attracted to the guy who shows features of other women being attracted to him. Meaning mate choice copying is actually more prevalent with women with lower body counts. This is conclusive at this point. And of course, evolutionarily, it's a very easy explanation. It's because these women have less experience. And because they have less experience, they're going to look to other women for their experience to say which guy they should choose. Does that make sense? And so
it's in the name,
now
right?
what you find, right, exactly. So what I said was, women find you attractive even if they don't know you're sleeping with them. Those sound like female friends to me. That sounds like female friends. So now what I do is I teach guys to roll out with 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 girls whenever they go out. They friend zone all of them, and then two things will start to happen. So let's just say, you live in Los Angeles and you go to Rasputin, or you go to, the Nice Guy, or you go to, Delilah, or whatever bar. You go to Catch, and you have like 9 girls with you. You walk in with the 9 girls. 2 things are going to happen. Number one, all the other girls are going to look at this dude with 9 girls, and they're going to be like, yo, what is going on here? I need to know who this guy is. So you're going to have women coming up with already a curiosity about you. Curiosity is just one molecule away from attraction. So there's a curiosity. Who is this guy who just walked in with 9 girls? Every year on my birthday, I have a party at different nightclub, and this year for my birthday, I'll probably have 40 or 50 girls with me, and I'll walk in. No guys, just girls. And when I walk in every year, without a doubt, cocktail servers come up to me who don't know who I am. Girls come out of the other VIP sections, and they'll come up and they'll want to meet me because they see me with so many other girls. That's the first thing that happened. Here's the second thing that happens. All these females that you hang out with that you're just friends with, remember, you put them in the friend zone. They did not put you in the friend zone. All these women you're just friends with, what are they seeing? What's their experience? So they're watching you. You're not hitting on them. That's interesting. That's not what I'm used to. I'm used to being hit on by every guy. Okay, so he's not hitting on me. Then they see you. You're with this girl this week, this girl this week, this girl this week. It's like, okay, so other women find him attractive. They like being around him. And then they're watching your interactions because you become more calibrated around beautiful women. You make them laugh more. You're more charismatic. You're a better leader. You have a better speaking voice around women. So what's happened is she's hanging around you as a friend, and she's constantly being exposed to positive, masculine, attractive traits that you're displaying for her. You're displaying in general. You're not displaying them for her. You're displaying them in general, right? You keep displaying these positive, masculine, attractive traits, and then you're not hitting on her. Eventually, it gets to the point where it's like, yo, why is this guy not hitting on me? Like I want his attention. I'll do anything to get his attention. And so now these girls that you friend zoned, eventually, sometimes it takes a month, sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes a year. A good number of them then start becoming very attracted to you. There's further data on this. Lucy Hunt does a study back in 2015, I believe, where she looks at people getting together, how long it took before they started dating from the time that they met. So someone might have started dating, like met, and then a month later, that was the difference in time. Someone may have met, and then they started dating 9 months later, that was the difference in time. So they took the different number of months it took for the people to start dating and stratified them by that. And then they looked at the physical attractiveness of the two people in the relationship. They used a scale, I believe, from +3 to -3. And they had a bunch of people like rate the physical attractiveness of these people from, +3 to -3. What they found is the best way for you as a man to meet a girl and then immediately start dating her or sleeping with her when you first meet her is for you to also be very attractive. So attractive men had an advantage in the short term. In the medium term, so like 4 or 5 months, that attraction bonus was cut in half. And at 9 months, the attraction bonus was 0. What does that mean? It means these guys put the girls in a friend zone for a period of time. These women got to watch them date these men date other women. It generated attraction in them. And then down the line, that's when the guy who's the 5 is dating the girl who's a 10, because he's used social circle and female friends to take women from an unfamiliar environment, like dating apps or cold approach, where Chad is always going to beat you. Chad and Tyrone are always going to win in this arena, to a familiar environment where you get to display your leadership qualities, your networking qualities, your communication qualities, your charisma, and your humor. And so now you do better than Chad in these situations. So that's the reason why this strategy is so, I don't even want to say it's effective. This strategy is deadly. This strategy is nuclear. Like, it's incredible. Like this, I don't know that there really is another strategy at this point. This is create your own events, roll with a bunch of different girls, don't hit on any of them, and then just generate the attraction. And now we've just got, I think, 4,100 students gone through the course. All of them will tell you that this works. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of testimonials on our website, because this strategy works. And if you really try to think about it critically, you'll probably say, okay, that sounds like it probably would work. But a lot of people still don't like that because they're stuck in this traditional mode of man chase woman, hit on woman, go do cold approach, hit on, hit on, hit on. That's what they do. And it's just a weird, it's a really weird situation that I still have to fight people on. Although I will say more and more people are coming to my side, coming to agree with me on this one.
Yeah, because it's hard to not agree with that when you see so much evidence, right? It's appalling how people.
Yeah, but so the problem is, GD, when they see the evidence, because it's so far outside of their reality, they think that you're just paying girls to hang out with you. And I've never paid a single girl to hang out with me, go on a date with me, take a picture with me, come to my event. I've never paid a penny. And so, but they see it and they're like, okay, in their mind, they're like, my favorite pickup coach could never get that many attractive women to hang out with him at the same time. Therefore, Michael must be paying them. And I'm like, okay, cool. They're all tagged. If you can get any of them to tell you that I paid them, I'll give you $50,000. And of course, I've been saying this for 6 years, and not a single guy has gotten a single girl to say that I paid them. And they're all tagged. And the reason, and they'll respond back to be like, listen, you fucking idiot, we love Michael. That's why we showed up. But because these guys don't understand friendship, and they certainly don't understand friendship with females, this concept is foreign to them. So them seeing what you consider evidence, because GD, you understood it was evidence, and now you're in the program now. So you've seen more than 100 guys who've had success with this. you know that it's real. But from other people from the outside looking in, it's like a guy who's super ripped and doesn't take steroids, and everyone's just like, no, that guy takes steroids. You know, Ronnie Coleman, the first time he competed in Olympia, he didn't take steroids, and everyone thinks he did. But then you saw him when he finally started taking steroids, and it was very clear that he wasn't taking steroids before. Guy's just a freak of nature. It's the same kind of situation. It's like, I've created such an unbelievable, advantageous dating life for my clients that from the outside looking in, if you don't understand what I'm doing, it looks like magic, or it looks like, oh, these guys are cheating, they're paying or giving them drugs or something. And you know, on the course, it's very strict rules about there's no drugs, there's no alcohol, we don't use money, and we don't use looks in order to get women. We use relevancy, competency, access to scarce resources, locations, networks. We use humor, pre-selection, social proof, and charisma in order to get women.
Man, and it's weird to see how people are so attached to their beliefs that they can't let themselves become better, right? So of the ideas that you teach, well, which one do you think you receive more pushback? Is this the idea of female friends or other ideas?
Yeah, it's the two. It's the two I just mentioned: the female friends and the mate choice copying. Women really don't like to admit that they're attracted to men that other women like, because then they have to admit to all the players that they were attracted to. Women will sit there and badmouth guys who are players online constantly. But why are they badmouthing them? It's because they slept with them. It's because they were attracted to those men. And so the idea that those men have a viable strategy for getting women, a lot of women don't want to admit to that. And so you find a lot of pushback for the idea that women find men attractive that other women find attractive. They're like, that wouldn't work on me. I was like, okay, honey, you're the only one it doesn't work on. Got it. And then the other one was men and women should be friends. They're like, oh, bro, that's gay. I don't have nothing to talk about with women. I was like, I do. I like to have threesomes. I like to tell the girl I'm with, I'd like to bring that other girl back with us. That's what I like to talk about. Sorry that you can't figure out something to talk about with women. I don't have any problem talking to stuff about women. And also, I host my show Access Vegas, where we have 8 to 10 girls, sometimes 12 girls on the show. And all we do is talk about concepts that we all find dude, that Charlie Kirk thing was such a horrible, horrible situation. And I was listening to the girls give their experiences of it, and it was really interesting, you know, hearing what they had to say about it, or what women's view on modern dating is. Do I agree with them all the time? Of course not. But it doesn't mean that I don't find it interesting when they express their opinion about it, or what their opinion is after they've gone through a divorce, or a woman who's been physically abused or something like that. I understand for a lot of guys, they wouldn't find any of this stuff interesting. But to me, I find the entire human condition interesting. I find psychology interesting. So I find these people interesting. It's not a big deal. They don't have to watch NFL football with me. They don't have to play Grand Theft Auto with me. They don't have to go play basketball with me. There's still other things. A big one is animal rescue. That's a very easy topic to talk about with women.
And one thing that I find really interesting about you, about Access Vegas and the podcast, is that you like to talk to people who have different opinions, and you debate flat earthers or women who have different opinions. But how can you debate ideas? Like, we live in such polarized times, it's hard to debate. How can you debate and still keep things friendly?
So a couple of things I do is I start from whenever I debate someone, I start from the first notion, which is that everything I believe is wrong. So when I debated, the first time I debated, like, I made a debate. I'm not saying the United States needs to fund Ukraine against Russia, but what I said was this was the stupidest move I've ever seen. Russia should not have invaded Ukraine. They really miscalculated how much money it was going to cost to defeat Ukraine and to take Kiev. And so I did a debate on this, and I started from the fact of, okay, what if everything I believe is wrong? What if it actually T-90 tanks can take out M1 Abrams? What if that the Russia actually does have the ability to shoot down F-35s with their missile batteries? And of course, I go through, I find all the data showing conclusively that none of that is true. Their Sukhoi 57 aircraft is worthless. Their T-90 tanks, the turrets pop off of them because they put the munitions on the same level as they put the turret. It's just terrible, terrible engineering design. And so I build my argument from the ground up, showing I didn't take anything for granted. Same thing if I debate a flat earther. Most people take it for granted that the earth is round. If you were to debate a flat earther and you didn't study for it, they would hand you your liver. I'm telling you this right now. Anybody who's listening to me right now, I will set up a debate between you and a flat earther, and you don't do any studying, and they will kill you. I mean, kill you. They will destroy you. They will embarrass you. Because, why? It's because they know that you believe the earth is round, but you take for granted that it's why it's round. Like, most of you know that the earth is round, but you don't know why you can prove it or how to prove it. You just believe that you saw some pictures from NASA, and that's the reason. Well, no, you don't understand. I can see the Southern Cross from 3 different points in the Southern Hemisphere because I'm looking in the same direction because the Earth is a sphere. Like there's things like that most people take for granted, and you have to study. So you take your argument and say, what if everything I believe is wrong? And then you slowly build your argument back up to 100. But when you build it up this time, it's bulletproof. You don't take anything for granted. Okay. Number 2, I assume that whoever I'm debating is smarter than me, funnier than me, more charismatic than me, and quick-witted or more quick-witted than I am. I assume that they are. Now, they almost never are, but I assume that they are, right? And because I assume they are, then I'm never caught off guard, and I always come in there with a sense of humility. And that's the third part is I come into the debate with a sense of humility and gratitude. Hey, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to express myself. That's the way I come into it. When I do that with that level of humility, when I go into a debate with that level of humility, I just, to be honest with you, I pretty much kick the shit out of everyone. Like I just, because nobody was willing to do that level of work. And if I'm going to debate you on something, it's something that I absolutely believe in. So that's generally what I've seen work really well. And then afterwards, because I never make things personal, I've had no trouble being friends with the people afterwards. In fact, a lot of those flat earthers are friends of mine. You guys, I don't know if you guys saw the leading flat earther in the world. He goes on a show. He goes to Antarctica. He comes to the realization that the Earth actually is round because he goes to Antarctica and he sees the sun go around the horizon for 24 hours. And then he's like, I'm not a flat earther anymore. He loses his whole fan base. He gets attacked by the flat earth community. And I had him on my show the other day because he and I stayed friends. Even though we did a debate like this, we stayed friends. And I think it's important to be able to do that. It's important to be able to stay friends with people who have different beliefs than you do. Like some of the most controversial figures on the internet, I'm even afraid to say their name. They're friends of mine. And I don't, I will say like one of them, Andrew Tate, is a friend of mine, but like I don't have to agree with everything he says in order to be friends with him. And so that's where a lot of people are confused by that. And for those, a lot of people are like mixing morality with friendship or whatever. Just always remember, I don't know which New Testament you read, but the one I read had Jesus eating with the tax collectors and the prostitutes. That was the one I read. So that's the way I look at it. I look and I listen and I don't judge.
Right. And I bet people appreciate you taking the time to research your argument and to listen to them.
Yeah.
Because I guess
sometimes
lacking,
they don't. Sometimes they hate it. I debated this one feminist, and it was so bad that she had to take the video down. I still have some clips from it, but it was so bad. It was so bad that like I got a message from like Andrew Wilson being like, I want to debate this woman because I just clowned her so badly. And I feel bad because I was super nice to her, but she just it was just one red herring, one straw man argument after another. And she didn't do any research on her position. She just believed that she was right because she was a feminist. And it ended really poorly for her. And like, so sometimes they don't like it. No.
Right. But you have debated a lot of people. And I'm curious, do you think there are people on the other side of your debates? Sometimes they have points that you think are valid, like feminists or really woke people. Have you seen good points from them?
Yeah. Jasmine Jafar is a great example of somebody because she's a summa cum laude at her law school. She was a practicing attorney, and then she just gave it all up to do OnlyFans. She's pretty politically liberal, but she's also very open-minded, meaning like she admits, I was listening to her do a podcast, and she admits that what California has done with their homeless problem is counterproductive. It's very, very stupid. If you've been to California, San Francisco or Los Angeles in the last decade, you can see like how terrible, like why Gavin Newsom can never be our president. You can just see that like he's just very clueless as to what he's doing. And she was open to that. She's like, yeah, I feel like we as Democrats are screwing this up. So I do listen. Because she's a little bit more honest about it, I tend to listen to her more. And one of the things she started talking about was the older men, younger women thing, how it's very difficult for relationships to work like that. And I tend to, because I'm 47 and because, like I said, I work in the modeling industry, I host bikini competitions, I work in nightlife. I tend to have women in their early 20s want to date me, or in their early 30s. And so there's a big age difference. And so how am I able to bridge that gap? The way I found to bridge the gap is stay in shape, work out together, go out, take walks together, take care of animals together. That's the thing that bridges the age gap probably better than anything else. And also, like, the reason why most younger women don't want men who are a lot older than them is because those men are fat. In this country, about 71% of the people in this country are overweight. And for women, it's even worse. But it's like, it's just the obesity thing. Like, again, I don't think women want a 47-year-old man. It's not that they don't want a 47-year-old man. They don't want a fat 47-year-old man. I think or an irrelevant 47-year-old man. And so I think those are things that, a lot of people They don't recognize. The thing is, I think I look okay for 47, but if you think about Archie Bunker, if you think about Carol O'Connor, who played Archie Bunker back in the 70s on the show called All in the Family, Carol O'Connor and I, when he started that show, are the same age. And Carol O'Connor looks like he's about to die from cancer. Like he was overweight. He just looked like his hair was like white gray, and just looked very, very different.
It's very interesting, man. And I wanted to go back a little bit to the coaching thing, and ask some questions about that. You've had like thousands of men you've coached over the years. And do you see patterns in men who change quickly and men who stay stuck? Like different patterns?
The patterns are real simple. Those who use speed of implementation and suspension of disbelief. It's not IQ. It's not IQ and it's not money. It's speed of implementation and suspension of disbelief. I find I have a lot of entrepreneurs. The people who work technical jobs have a little harder time with, because there's a lot of suspension of disbelief, right? It's very difficult to suspend disbelief. So whenever I have an accountant or a doctor, they tend to have a little bit harder time following the directions. When I have an entrepreneur, and any of you are entrepreneurs, you're just diving into the abyss all the time. You don't know what's going to happen. And so those guys are easier to suspend disbelief. And they also know with the changing pace of business, they always have to take massive action extremely quickly. So the entrepreneurial type tends to do very well in the course, whereas the analytical type, I have to kind of beat it out of them. Now here's generally where the majority of conflict comes in my program, is the man who is successful because he uses logic, reason, accountability, deduction in order to solve problems in his business. And because he's gotten so good at that, he's a multimillionaire. Okay, so he's gotten really good, but when he solves a problem, he uses problem-solving skills to solve problems that make him more money. And he's become adept at that. He's 10 out of 10 at that skill set, using problem solving to make money. Now he comes into a dating or relationship segment. He's dealing with women who are addicted to their phone, who wear a bunch of filters. They're wearing push-up bras, and they're wearing corsets that make them look like they're catfishing you, basically. They have unrealistic, unbelievable expectations on what their relationship is supposed to look like. Just see The Wizard Liz if you want to know what I'm talking about. Just ridiculous, unrealistic beliefs on how relationships are supposed to work. And so this guy, he doesn't have the technology to like know how to deal with this. And remember, he's an accountant. He's a research scientist. He's a guy who he's made a lot of money because he was an attorney. He's an immigration attorney, something like that. I have a lot of pilots in my program, right? Pilots are also, being a great pilot is also always about problem solving. So this guy is taking his problem solving skill set. He's bringing it into the intersexual dynamic space, and he's just getting destroyed. And women are taking advantage of him. He doesn't understand why. He's becoming more and more frustrated. Everything he seems to do is wrong. He only seems to attract women who have mental disorders or after him for his money, or prostitutes, or girls on OnlyFans, or what. Like, that's all he's able to attract. And he becomes more and more frustrated because he's like, the mechanisms he used to make money in his business are not the same mechanisms that he uses to attract women. When I am trying to make money, like for instance, you and I, we're doing a podcast right now. It solves a problem for both of us. You have guests that you want to put on your podcast. I want to expand the reach of my program. So we're solving problems. There's a synergy to us solving problems whenever we do those things. So generally, whenever I speak to other entrepreneurs, it's the language of problem solving. That's the only language we're speaking. When I speak to women, I'm projecting a feeling. It's not the art of problem solving. When I'm talking to women, I'm projecting a feeling. When I project that feeling in her, if the feeling is comfortable and good enough, if you've ever had a woman had insane, genuine desire for you, that's where that comes from. It's because you're projecting a feeling in her. And if you've ever had a woman leave you out of nowhere, it's because you stopped projecting that feeling in her. That's what it is. It's not the same language. It's not the language of problem solving. And so learning the distinction between the two is where the difficulty comes. And so that's generally what I help a lot of guys with.
That makes a lot of sense, man, because it's totally another reality, almost, talking to women and doing technical stuff at work. And I wanted to ask you too about the leadership modules, because I think they were super interesting, but on the calls, we don't talk a lot about those. Do you think people realize the importance of them?
No, they certainly don't. So one of the reasons why I'm able to do so, my clients are able to do so well, and I'm able to do so well, is because I can get a group of people to come together for an event. I have what's called it's called fame versus influence. Leadership leads to influence. Okay, clickbait leads to fame. They're two different things. So, like for instance, an example of fame versus influence would be like Alex Hormozy versus Brittany Renner. Alex Hormozy is an incredible self-help coach, helps people scale up their businesses. Brittany Renner is about as famous as Alex Hormozy for being an author, but her book is about athletes to get her pregnant, and she brags about all the men she's had sex with. Brittany Renner has no influence. She has a ton of fame. She's very famous, but she can't she can't be a speaker on a self-help tour when she talks about getting a yeast infection from having sex with 3 guys in the same day. She doesn't have influence. She just has fame. Alex Hormozy has influence. Alex Hormozy can fill rooms full of people. And these are 2 people, if you were to look, they get about the same number of Google searches. They have about around the same number of followers. These 2 people, one is famous and one has influence. And so the leadership component in communication is how you develop influence. Okay. So for me, let's just say I want to get better at dating. I'm going to have October 15th, we're going to have a breast cancer awareness charity in Los Angeles. When we do that, it's going to be a pink party. So there's a theme. Once we have that party, then I'm going to invite several thousand people to the party. I'm going to put them on a guest list. When they get there, we're going to go to the red carpet, and I'm going to lead the group, the interaction, to take photos so that we can get more of the word out about this breast cancer awareness event that we're doing. I'm going to lead the group, and then at the end, when I want to go home with a girl, 2 girls, whatever, I'm going to lead that group to, say, Mel's Diner or whatever. I'm going to constantly be leading the group to where we go walking in Runyon Canyon. We all go to the movies together. It's my the word is my deep male voice that said, ladies, all right, it's time to go. All right, guys, everybody, let's get in the Uber. I'm handling things. I'm leading the interaction, and everything is taken care of, and the women know that everything's taken care of simply by my presence. That's where leadership comes in to make women just outrageously attracted to you when they see that.
Yeah, I can see that, and I've experienced that. But to me, at least, I think it's a hard skill to keep consistent. In some situations, I can do it. Others, I cannot. Do you think
feel like
it's
a phony?
The hardest skill?
You feel
No,
feel phony.
it's not that.
Okay.
It's not that. Sometimes some people, they take the role, and I'm maybe too slow or maybe not confident enough to take that role. You know?
Well, that's what I'm saying though. But if you don't feel confident, you're not speaking up, and then you speak up, then you might feel phony. Like you might be in a situation where like I don't feel like I have the right to like lead this interaction. And the thing is, you do. Like there's just like leadership is also like we're going into a club or restaurant wherever, and I know where everything is. Like everything's when I think of leadership, everything is handled, everything is prepared. Everything, when we go to dinner, I know where we're going to valet. All the girls get out of my car. We go up to the restaurant. When I walk up, the head waiter comes and greets me, Mr. Sartain. The chef comes out once dinner is coming out. I'm leading the interaction. Okay, take out my phone. Everybody sings happy birthday to whoever. It's just constantly interactions of me being charismatic and leading the interaction. So that at the end, because I've led, when it's like, hey guys, let's all go back to my place. It's kittens and tequila. Let's go check it out. Everyone's like, yes, you've handled it all. It's all taken care of because of you. Of course we will follow. That's the way it works. And a lot of people have a hard time with that. They have a hard time with that concept, and they think it's just a function of game or whatever. But leadership also leads to higher levels of status, or leadership leads to a higher level of influence.
Yeah, so I get that leadership comes a lot from competence, right? Confidence comes from competence, and leadership comes from that.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're in certain situations where you don't have a lot of control. So then what do you do in those situations?
Stoicism is generally what I'm going to do in those situations. I'm not going to be affected. I'm still going to be, what I teach guys to do in social situations is be the connector, be the suggester, be the content creator. So what we call value arbitrage. I'm going to teach them to do those things, and then I'm going to teach them to use their cold approach to build a social circle. So you might go up and be like, hey, we're going to host December 4th. We're going to host Babes in Toyland for the Midnight Mission. We're collecting toys for underprivileged and homeless children at the Midnight Mission. Would you like to come to this event December 4th? So now we exchange IGs, and we have a conversation. I'm connecting her to other people. We make some content. I'm making her laugh, and then I'm looking for signs of compliance afterwards. Those are the things that I would do in an interaction like that, is just use my ability to cold approach to build a bigger and bigger social circle to get people to come to different events. And then at those events, what have I done? I've taken them from unfamiliar environment, like we talked about before, to a familiar environment where now I have more of an ability to let my attractive qualities shine.
Yeah, it makes sense. And you can see like how you use a strategy to turn things to your favor, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing I'm curious about too, about your ideas, the things that you teach, is which idea do you think your clients have the most resistance to learn?
The biggest one with the most resistance, this is going to seem really abstract because a lot of people won't grasp it, but it's like you can invite people to events they can't go to. If you want to know like the number one piece of resistance, because they're always so, no matter how many times I explain it, they just don't grasp it. You can invite women to events that they can't go to and that you can't go to. Now, as long as someone can potentially get them in. So an example would be, GD, what city are you in?
In São Paulo.
Okay, so you're in São Paulo. You want to invite some girls that you met in Florida to a party in Los Angeles. Okay, now I either am throwing the party or I know someone who's throwing the party. There's very few parties in LA that I don't at least know someone who can get you on the guest list, especially if the woman's very attractive. So what you do is you message these like stunning Colombian girls that you know in Miami about a Maxim party that's happening in Los Angeles. And the girls are like, well, they're like, well, I can't go because it's in Los Angeles. But what do they say? They always say the same thing. They're like, thank you for inviting me. And now you have an open thread with that girl. And then occasionally, what do some of them say? Okay, I'd like to go to the event. So you send me their IG and then I put them on the list. And now you take the credit for getting a girl in Miami on a list for a party in Los Angeles. And guys don't grasp this concept. They just truly, no matter how many times I explain it, it doesn't make any sense to them. You can recruit for parties that you can't even go to. But when you do so, you generate open threads. Now here's what happens. Now all of a sudden this stunning girl who would have never noticed you before, you invite her to a party that she can't go to, but now you have an open thread with her. And as soon as you're done talking to her, your content, this is a crazy thing about the Instagram algorithm, your content now shows up on her Explore page. Oh, now all of a sudden the For You page, her For You page has videos and pictures of you. Guys don't like no matter how many, dude, I've explained this more than 200 times and guys still don't understand this concept. If you join Men of Action, we give you just numerous, like countless, voluminous, hundreds of events that you can invite women to and they don't have to be able to go and you don't have to be able to go. Now, ideally, what you want to do is what? Hey, would you like to come to my birthday party? It's at this date and you're going to be there and she's going to be there. And then maybe, you can create a connection that way. Ideally, that's what you want. But even if you don't get that, you can still invite thousands of girls to different things. You're like, well, Michael, I don't have time to invite thousands of girls to stuff. Go to Upwork, get a VA for $8 an hour. They'll do the invites for you. Have two-factor authentication on your phone. I've done this more than 1,000. And when I say 1,000, I mean one with 3 zeros behind it. More than 1,000 times I've done this. It's so easy. I coach entrepreneurs worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I teach them how to throw these events. It's so easy to do. If you just listen to my instructions, I have an entire set on there about how to throw these events and then how to get girls to come to events or how to invite girls to events that they can't even go to. It happens all the time. I remember I used to go to the Ignite parties. We're back in Bel Air. These are the biggest parties there were. This was bigger than the Playboy Mansion. And when I would go to the parties, I would invite thousands of girls, and the vast majority of them couldn't come, but they all said thank you to me. And now I have open threads so that later on when I had my birthday party, I end up going to my birthday party with 50 or 60 girls. It's really simple. I just gave the game away. This is how this whole program works. But the whole getting girls to come to events is about 15%, 15% of the program. The rest of the program, I teach you leadership, communication, networking, event planning. I teach you evolutionary psychology, critical thinking. I teach you winning mindset, finance, different concepts like that as well. There's a book list as well. All these things you do to improve as a man holistically. And then in the end, what do you get in addition to that? You get an amazing social life and you get like an amazing dating, not even an amazing dating life. You get a perfect dating life. You get a perfect dating life. You get to date exactly who you want or exactly the number of girls you want, and there's nothing in your way when you inculcate these ideas.
Yeah, and the book list for MOA was just blew my mind when I saw it. I saw a lot of things I didn't expect there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, you said like a perfect dating life. What's your opinion on that? Like what is the perfect dating life for a man according to evolutionary psychology? Because there's a lot of debate if humans are promiscuous, if they are monogamous, serial monogamy. What do you think is the most correct answer?
So evolutionary psychology is descriptive. It's not prescriptive. So there's nothing perfect in evolutionary psychology. Evolutionary psychology describes how jealousy works in Homo sapien males, which often leads to homicide, but it doesn't prescribe a moral equivalency to it. Meaning, like, evolutionary psychology doesn't say because jealousy is natural, therefore it is good. This is called a naturalistic fallacy. People who don't like the concept of evolutionary psychology, they don't like it what it describes, but they don't understand it's a description, not a prescription. And so because of that, a lot of people get the concept misunderstood. In general, what does evolutionary psychology describe as the journey for the Homo sapien? It is a life of polygyny interspersed with small periods of monogamy. It's generally what it is. So it's like most people are going to have more than one monogamous relationship in their life. Now, some people will have no monogamy their whole life, and some people will meet one person and then just have nothing but monogamy from the time they're 18 till the day they die. But most people and most experience is for Homo sapiens is somewhere in between those two things. So periods of monogamy interspersed in a lifetime of polygamy. Does that make sense? That's generally how it works. So but there's no good or bad. And this is pretty controversial for a lot of people. You're not good because you chose to settle down and get married, and I'm not bad if I chose to not settle down and get married. There's no good or bad. For every person, that's what, part of living in a liberal democracy is you get to do whatever you want. There's also, you can be a Christian and not get married. I know it's hard for some people to hear. It is absolutely true, okay? And also, the institution of marriage has been kind of perverted and bastardized in the last, let's say, the 1970s, where in theory it's a beautiful idea. In practice, it's become this wasteland. It's become 56% divorce rate. Most of these divorces, vast majority, 4 out of 5 divorces initiated by females, and women are incentivized to leave the man, take the alimony, take half, take the kids, and so it's become a bit of a wasteland. Marriage is not the contract for men that it used to be. The men don't get the things out of the contract that they used to get. They're basically getting sex with one woman, and she doesn't have sex with other men, and then these women are still having sex with other men. And you're able to get that. You're able to get that fecundity. You're able to get that loyalty even if you don't get married. So if you're a man who knows how to generate attraction, so marriage is becoming a worse and worse deal. I'm not saying don't get married. I'm just saying in general, if you look at what men get out of marriage, it's way less than they did in, say, like the 1950s or the 1920s. So
yeah. So do you think dating has become a zero-sum game with all this?
No,
what you
no,
just
certainly
said?
not. It's not a zero-sum game. Dating is not a zero-sum game. What it is because if a man does something that makes him more attractive, that's better for the man and better for the woman. If you can do something like, for instance, if your girlfriend gets in shape and she feels better about herself and it makes you want to have more sex with her, that's not zero-sum. Both sides win. That's a win-win situation. So I think the best thing in the world for men is for men to be more attractive. I think the best thing in the world for women is for men to be more attractive. Women are already attractive. Men have to work on their attractiveness. So it helps men and women. So because of that, it's not a zero-sum game. However, for women, because of hypergamy and because women make more money than they used to and have more economic viability and higher levels of education than they used to, going back to as far as the 1970s and earlier, because of that, the pool of men that they have to choose from is less and less. And so as a function of economics, you start to have this smaller and smaller group of men at the top that get more and more attention from women, and this larger and larger group of men at the bottom who are getting no attention from women or very little attention from women. And it creates a problem. And this isn't my opinion. There are infinite studies that show this. That's essentially what's going on. And this is the reason why, there's one survey that shows under the age of 30, something like 63% of men are single, but only 33% of women. Like, how is that possible? How's that possible? And the answer is either these women are dating older men, which they are, or they're dating multiple women are dating the same man, which they are. It's very simple to explain. So dating apps showing data where 80% of men are deemed below average attractiveness. 80% of men are below average attractiveness. Like when you see these kind of things, what you're going to get is a surplus of men at the bottom who don't get that many opportunities with women. I'm not here to complain about that. I'm here to provide a solution. My solution, like I said before, is to become the social hub, to start creating events where there's numerous women in comparison to men, to become more charismatic, more humorous, to be a better leader, have better networks, so that more women find you more attractive, to friend zone hundreds of women. That's how those men at the bottom who are ignored can become a man who has an abundance with dating.
Yeah, man, that's a great message. I don't understand why so many people have a resistance with ideas like that. But maybe it's because of the legacy of the red pill. Red pill gets a bad rep, right?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is that part, but like here's why people have a hard time with it. It's because I don't blame anyone. So what I just expressed to you was, there's this massive misconception about red pill content, which is that red pill blames women. It does not blame anyone. All of this is Charles Darwin's fault, and it's not even Charles Darwin's fault. It's just natural selection. No one is. So the way you can cure yourself of this blame is very simple. Just close your eyes and pretend you have a hypothetical daughter. If you have an actual daughter, don't use for this experiment. Just a hypothetical daughter that you have. Would you want your hypothetical daughter dating a man with a very high-pitched, nasally voice who complained about everything all the time? He had noodles for arms and was extremely afraid of any kind of violence. Would you want your daughter dating that guy, or would you want your daughter dating someone who was financially successful, in tremendous shape, who looked like he could lead a group and just had a look on his face and a look in his physique that he would commit massive levels of violence to protect his wife, your daughter, and their offspring? Who would you rather have your daughter marry? If you think about it from that standpoint, hypergamy makes sense. It's not, no one is to blame. Okay. The same thing, you can do the same experiment if you're a woman, and you have a son, and you just think about your hypothetical son. Would you want your hypothetical son with a woman who's obsessed with him, who wants to have babies with him, who doesn't need to go drink or do drugs without him, and is very much stimulated by him and the relationship? Or would you rather want your son to be with someone who has multiple sexual partners, has a very difficult time being faithful in a relationship, shows herself off, very frequently to other men to let her know that she's available, and needs high level of stimulus along with the drug and alcohol problem? Who would you rather want your daughter with if you're a woman and you're like, okay, yeah, you're right, I probably don't want my son dating the stripper? And then the man is like, okay, I probably don't want my daughter dating the broke guy. And then you all of a sudden, these concepts, hypergamy and hyperandry, they start to make way more sense from an evolutionary standpoint when you can put yourself in the shoes of a daughter or a son.
And that's a beautiful explanation. I love this point of view. It makes way more sense. It almost feels like another theory, another explanation of the ideas of the red pill, man. And we've been talking for a long time. I kind of want to start wrapping things up. I wanted to ask you, for people listening to this conversation, what is the one piece of advice that you wish people would take away?
Yeah, find mentors, whoever they are. It's just, we have such a great book I'm reading right now by Joe Heinrich. He's an evolutionary biologist at Harvard. And he goes over the reason why humans why humans have bigger brains in comparison to their bodies than any other animal on the planet. And the reason why he expresses it is, what happens is humans have this cultural evolution to be able to take ideas and culture and then pass them from one generation to another. So generation 1 understands how to start a fire and how to fish. Generation 2 takes that information and then they add how to noodle, how to get crabs, how to chop down wood, how to protect themselves. And then generation 3 learns how to build spears and blah, 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 and then how to create the wheel. And you just have generation after generation passing along these cultural evolutions. The way we do it is through body language, speech, written language, etc. We as humans have this ability that no other animal in the world has. Yes, monkeys can teach their children how to hunt for insects. I understand that. But in general, like overall, the monkeys are not addicted to their culture like humans are addicted to our culture. So if we understand this addiction that we have to our culture, then the number one thing that you can do in order to get all this great information is to learn from someone who came before you. And an extreme example of this would be Albert Einstein creating relativity and starting with some of the concepts that came from Principia Mathematica written by Isaac Newton, and Isaac Newton coming up for the formulation for gravity based on the observations that he saw from Johannes Kepler. So you're standing on the shoulders of giants. right? You understand Benjamin Franklin discovers electricity. Michael Faraday, who we never discuss for some reason, Michael Faraday discovers how to generate electricity using a generator, using a magnet he explains. Michael Faraday discovers how to generate electricity using magnets. So that, and then we use that idea, and then later on we get a photoelectric effect from James Clerk Maxwell, and then later on after that we have Albert Einstein winning the Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect. How does that happen? It's because they found mentors and they stood on the shoulders of giants. Those are extreme examples. Use something less extreme. You want to build a sales funnel. Should you go start from scratch and just try out a sales funnel, or should you find 10 other people with killer sales funnels and then notice they all kind of have a similar sales funnel and then follow what they're doing? And then once you master that sales funnel, then you can sprinkle in your little pieces of creativity after you master how to do that. You want to get in better shape. Why not, instead of just going to the gym and fucking around, why not find 10 people who have the physique that you're looking for, then ask them what they do. And then when you find out all of them, do intermittent fasting with hypertrophy exercise, and they use a steam room and they stretch every day and they do 5-day splits. And once you start to, and they have high levels of protein with lower levels of, fats and carbs, you start seeing these patterns between all these successful mentors that you found. And you're like, okay, now I can formulate my own workout and nutrition regimen so that I can get in shape like these other people rather than starting from zero. Finding mentors, most important thing I think you can do as a human.
Perfect, man. I couldn't agree more. And this idea is so underrated. I took a long while to understand it, and now I understand way more. I have one last question, kind of a meta question. What is something that you do not get asked a lot that you wish you would get asked more?
There's so much. Anything to do with astronomy, the NFL, the NBA, economics, history, like any stuff like that. That's always stuff, like especially NFL stuff. Like you notice that some of the guys will ask me NFL questions on the panel. I'm obsessed with the NFL. So those are the things. If I wasn't doing this, I can tell you confidently I'd be hosting a sports show.
For sure.
Yeah.
I didn't know you like it so much, man. It's fake football. The true football is European, Brazilian. Come on.
There is no way you can look at American football and say this is less exciting than European football. There's just, I don't, like, you want me to, I can just pull up clips right now of like Derrick Henry running over people, and you tell me how watching, whatever, Messi is more interesting than, it's not. It just isn't. American football is the greatest sport to watch in the entire world. And if you're like, well, this is too slow, then just watch the highlights. It's the greatest sport.
I personally prefer NBA to NFL. But,
sure. I mean, but the NBA is the same thing too. I just like the NBA to me is more interesting than soccer. I just don't understand. Like, I'm not saying I don't enjoy soccer, but I can only watch highlights. I can't sit through the back and forth. I don't care about the crowd and all their weird cheer. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It's really fun to watch. It's just, there seems to be so much luck involved because these scores are so low, and I don't really know who the better team is. But generally, I can see that, and you don't have a salary cap in your system, and like you have relegation, which is kind of cool. But then it just seems like the same couple teams win all the time, and I just feel like the NFL is. It's like there's very few ways to win a soccer game. You're just going to score more points than the other person, and you're going to kick the ball, get it to your frontline offensive players, and they're going to kick it into the goal. In American football, there's so many more ways to score than there is in soccer. That's why I enjoy it so much more, and there's so much more strategy.
I agree, man. And soccer is kind of unfair. People say it's unfair all the time because the scores are low, so maybe you had a goal by accident, and then you win the championship.
Yeah, so you have a higher, because you have a lower number of occurrences, you have a higher amount of randomness. Whereas the NBA, you have the least amount of randomness. Why? Because you have the most number of occurrences. These teams are basically an attrition battle to see who can score consistently the most, and then you have 7-game series to determine who the winner of it is. So it's very hard for a fluky team to end up beating a better team in American football. I'm sorry, in NBA basketball.
Yeah. And it makes total sense, and people here in Brazil are going to hate me, but I get your point. I barely watch soccer anymore because I cannot spend 2 hours watching millionaires passing the ball around. I get your point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you very much for this conversation, man. I loved it. And yeah, it was very fruitful, very interesting. And
I love it, man.
Can people
Let me know
find
when
more
this comes
about you?
up, and if you guys want to find me, just look up Michael Sartain on Instagram. It's the easiest way to find me. Sartain Podcast on Twitter. If you want to find me on YouTube, it's Michael Sartain. TikTok, it's Michael Sartain Podcast, because these different platforms keep taking my accounts away. So I got to keep coming up with different names. But just look up Michael Sartain. It should be very easy to find. If you want to level up your networking, your communication, your leadership, or your dating, and yes, I know. Most people come to me for dating stuff. I totally understand. You've been on the calls before, GD, where an entire call is just nothing but just getting dudes their dream girl. I understand that. But it's a lot. I just want to let you know it's a lot more than that in the program. And those are the kind of things that we help you with. We've had 4,000 guys go through the program, more than 4,000. And if you're skeptical of a lot of stuff I'm saying, I totally understand that, and I respect your skepticism. But if somebody meets your skepticism, if you present a challenge to me and I meet your challenge, you have to be open-minded enough to admit, okay, maybe this is a different way of looking at things. If you're having a hard time understanding some of the stuff I'm saying, go to moamentoring.com/testimonials and do yourself a favor. Watch the first 100 video testimonials on there. If you're still skeptical, watch the next 100 video testimonials on there. And then do yourself a third favor, which is this. Don't ever buy anyone's program that doesn't have at least 100 video testimonials on there. The proof of concept, you can look at it over and over again. So many guys are going through the program, and we've been able to help them not because I'm smart, but because we use concepts from evolutionary psychology, and we follow mentors, people who have been smart and accomplished incredible things before us. We use their information in order to build this course.
Perfect, man. I love it. I'm going to leave all the links in the description, and thank you for that. See you.
All right, man. Talk to you soon, brother.
Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye. You too.
All right, man. I'm going to get out of here, bro.